Operator here. Welcome to the Cyberpunk Matrix podcast, your one-stop shop for everything cyberpunk. In just a second, we're going to connect you to the cyberspace. So hold on to your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Cyberpunk Matrix podcast. I'm your operator Alex, and today we're going to be talking in-depth spoiler reviews of the Matrix Resurrections with none other than resident Neo-ologist Lazarus from NeoMatrixology. Thanks for coming back to the show, Laz.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I know we were hoping to get in a bigger group with the Matrix podcast, a different podcast. There's so many of them, but
right.
There has been technical difficulties with that. We've just been waiting, and I just couldn't wait personally. So I said, all right, let's just have you on for now, and then maybe we'll be together next up soon when that does actually happen.
I was going to say, he postponed that, right, though? Did we get a new date yet or no?
I don't think we got a new date yet.
Okay.
He said he was figuring things out. So yeah, we'll see about that. But
I've had to do some real world situating over here myself. So I get it.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So this episode is going to be all about the Matrix. I don't know if you caught my latest episode. I actually talked about in-depth spoilers as well with my wife, Helena. And she has, she's not really into cyberpunk. She's not really into science fiction in general. And so it was very interesting. Like, we had a really good discussion for a whole hour because she's a completely different perspective. She's not really into it. And so it's an objective outsider view. So that was really interesting. But now I need to talk to an expert to kind of balance it out.
Yeah, no problem.
So my first question to you is, first, I'm guessing you've seen Matrix Resurrections, surely, since it came out.
The count is up to 6, I believe.
Wow, that's impressive. So my question to you is, how did you see the premiere? And let's start with there. How did you see the premiere for the first time?
It's funny because I bought the ticket on IMAX, which I tweeted and all that fun stuff. But the same day was Project Matriculated. So
okay, yeah.
I knew I wanted to see it before that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that was going to be my day. So I think it was like a noon IMAX showing on, the day that it released in the States.
Sure.
General public, I'm not press or anything. It was no early for me.
Right.
But yeah, I was, one of the cosplay models was running a little late. So it's funny because I told you the story of how I saw the original Matrix, and I came in, the original Matrix in 1999 on the scene where Trinity, like right before she kicks the cop, right?
Yeah.
Right. In bullet time. Right.
Yeah.
So this time around, I'm running late and I walk in as Echo is getting ready to kick the cop. So that part was kind of cool.
Oh, wow. So you walked into the premiere a little bit late. It had already started, if I understand correctly.
Right. But I started the movie in the loop, the same place that I started the original movie. You know what I mean? So on a personal experience, it was like a loop for me.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Now, the first time it was probably my fault that we were late, but this time it wasn't my fault.
Right. Okay.
But I also knew that, I had the HBO Max, and by then you could already watch it on HBO Max. I just wanted my first viewing to be, the big ice screen, the IMAX,
Yeah.
But then after that, I watched it, later. So.
Okay. So I'm guessing after that, you watched it in Project Matriculated with a big group, and then you watched it 4 more times on HBO Max.
Right. Well, Project Matriculated was for Beyond the Glitch.
That's right. Okay. Yes.
But I did watch it again on HBO Max, and now the count is up to a total of 6 times. So that's 5 times on HBO Max, 1 time in the theater, and then I went ahead and purchased the digital copy. Rather the streaming. So they don't give you a file. Like, you have access to stream it. I hope for life. I don't know. But either way, I needed something to have access to it while I wait for the hard copy to be released, So.
Sure. So how did you buy the access to it? What platform did you use?
If you go to whatisthematrix.com, it was like, I think it's like $25 to rent and $30 to buy. So it's like, why would you rent it at that price? You know what I mean?
And then when you bought it, then you have to go to What is the Matrix online, and then you can stream it whenever you want, as many times as you want from that
So
website?
they have a list of like, I guess, service providers, if you want to call it that. It's like YouTube. I use Google Play.
Okay.
So basically I have to put that link or click my purchase in a, Google web browser, and it'll just play it, stream it from whatever purchased website that they use.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so that way they can, try to prevent you from pirating it,
Yeah,
but you
sure,
can still
sure.
watch it. It's just like it's just like watching it on Netflix or any other streaming service that comes up in a web browser.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was able to, I mean, I paid a lot of money to watch IMAX in London because I happened to be in London for Christmas when it came out.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then it wasn't available online for purchase,
Right.
and I couldn't watch it in the theaters where I am because I live on a little island of Corsica in the south of France in the Mediterranean Sea, and they only had it in the French version. So I regret to have to say that I did need to like watch it on a pirated website just once, just to get that second viewing in because I just didn't have any more options.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to the theaters, and I felt like like I paid £50, £25 for myself, £25 for
Right.
my
You
wife.
supported it, right?
I
Yeah.
supported it well enough, so it wasn't like I was taking away any money from it. And I'm going to buy the digital copy, but I want the actual file. I want to be able to put it on a hard drive, disconnect from the internet, and watch it on any screen whenever I want. You know what I mean? So like, I'm
Yeah.
waiting for it to be able to be for me to be able to purchase it in a file format. And yeah, it's just where I am now. It's very difficult to watch anything in English in the theaters. So that's just where I am. So what were your thoughts? I mean, so everyone remembers their first time. So my question is, what were your thoughts while you're in the film watching the IMAX premiere, and what were your thoughts coming out of the theater?
Okay. So, going in, I was very, very excited. It was very like kind of big day for me,
Yep, yep.
there was definitely that, kid in Christmas not sleeping much the night before factor
Yeah,
and all that
yeah.
stuff. So yeah, I was on short sleep, right? And then because of Project Matriculated, I had to, I got some of the, like, there was a couple of lines that I had to like redub in post, but I didn't get them from, everybody in Orlando till like maybe like a few days before. So then I took the version I had to Vibe and sound checked it, and there were a couple of lines that were like low, so I wanted to raise the volume on them.
Mhm.
So I had to like re-render everything. You know what I mean? And the night, right? And this isn't happening, like the final render isn't happening until like the night before, and then I watched it and there was something else wrong and I had to re-render it again. You know what I
Oh
mean? So by
wow.
the time I got to sleep, it was like, some ridiculous time, like 6 a.m. or something ridiculous like that.
Oh no.
Right. So you know what I mean? So like, but I had to have it done by the
Right.
day. So,
For the
you
Beyond
know
the
what I mean?
Glitch.
So I'm on very little sleep. Just the adrenaline is kind of carrying me at this point. You know what I mean? And it's pure adrenaline. I'm excited to see the film. I'm
Yeah.
excited to premiere, my short later. So yeah, there was, it was a good
It's a
day,
double whammy.
yeah,
Mhm.
double whammy. That's saying I
Yeah.
put a lot on myself that day.
Yeah.
But a lot of build up, like I said, a lot of fun with that. I didn't stress about it. It was all in good fun.
Sure.
Right. So sitting in the theater, now we're in the theater. Like I said, I'm kind of laughing to myself inside because I realize the part that we've already discussed, that I'm, looping myself here.
Yeah.
So there's some meta Matrix experience for me on a personal level.
Did you walk in and you were like, wait a minute, are they showing the first movie and I just missed it, or is this actually?
Well, you got to remember, I had so many spoilers going in that I knew what I was walking into.
Okay.
So that made it even more like, really, like this just happened, really, like, because I didn't plan that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. So, so I'm having fun with that. I did notice early on in the film, but it was pretty consistent throughout, that the audience, everybody else, the general public, if you will, you know, not the necessarily hardcore Matrix fans or Cyberpunk fans like you and me, they seem to laugh at every single meta joke, like everyone. And that's the thing. I'm really glad that I went to the theater and didn't just stream it. I'm very glad that I had the theater experience for this. It was important. That was one reason. The flip side of that coin is, and I laughed at some of them. It's not that I didn't enjoy some of them, but the stuff that I was laughing out loud at in the theater, I'd say 90% of the time, 80% of the time, 85, somewhere in there, when I laughed out loud, I was the only one laughing.
Oh.
Like there was definitely stuff that I was picking up on that regular casual fans had no idea what was happening, you know, or picking up on those nuances. So there was that part of it. I mean, and that happens. That's not like exclusive to the Matrix. I'm weird and strange like that. But yeah, I noticed the consistency with this film. That was something that was unique or new to me. The fact that, like I said, it was like every meta joke, audience laughter, and then I'm just like randomly laughing.
Okay, that's really great that they were responding though, because you know.
Oh, they were definitely responding. Like I definitely walked out of the theater like people like this. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, strange. That's great. That was very different from my experience actually. So like I said, like I was thinking to myself, okay, well the Brits must be pretty rowdy, right? Like they're going to be as active, because in the US, Americans are very, very reactive. Sometimes they're almost too reactive in talking during the movie and responding to it.
Right.
I wanted to feel that kind of energy. I felt it briefly when I watched, what was it? I think it was Avengers Endgame in the theaters. That was in Strasbourg, France. And so it was in the original format, but people did respond to it. In this giant IMAX theater, though, in London, I thought people were going to be very responsive. And some of them were, but maybe because it was so big, I didn't hear a lot of reactions. Like I couldn't really hear people responding to it. It was mostly quiet for the whole film.
Wow.
And then at the end, you know, I thought it was really great. And so I was clapping, but I was the only one who did. I was the only one who clapped. Yeah. And then as I was getting up, I heard, I went to the bathroom afterwards or something. And as I was leaving, I heard someone say, well, those are 2 hours of my life I'll never be able to get back. And I was like, What the heck? Did we see the same movie here? Like, I was so shocked. And that was my first clue that people might not like this movie so much.
And we're going to get into that a little bit. But just to kind of, I guess, finish answering your question. Because, I felt like, you know, when you talk about like, you know, here in the States and people being reactive, like I said, there was the laughter consistently with the meta jokes. At the end, I wasn't the only one clapping. I'm not going to say it was standing ovation the whole theater.
Sure.
But you know what I mean? Like I heard that there were multiple hands clapping. I wasn't the only one who enjoyed it at that level.
It was just me out of like, I don't know, 100 to 150 people. It was just one person. But also it's not really the norm in Europe, I guess. I know it's not the norm in France.
Also, what day did you go?
It was the premiere. It was the 22nd. It was the 22nd at 1:30 p.m.
Okay.
In the IMAX theater in BFI London downtown. I think that maybe there were some theaters showing it at 10:30 in the morning. That was a Wednesday, I believe. But yeah, it was pretty much as early as you can see it. You know, the theater was packed, like completely packed. Every single seat was taken practically. Which gave me my own concerns because, you know, COVID,
right? And that's what that's funny you say that. Because when I went to, because you know, with the IMAX, I don't know about in France, but in the States, with the IMAX, you know, you have to pick your seating in advance now.
Yeah,
you know, and like when they announced that you could buy tickets, I logged into AMC because I'm like a stockholder, so I wanted to like log in through the stockholder portal or whatever, and you know what I mean, get my free popcorn.
Sure.
And so I picked the seat like dead center in the back, last row. And I don't know, I got distracted, phone rang, something. And I came back like, I want to say a half hour or 45 minutes later, no more than an hour. And those seats weren't available anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, okay, let me stop messing around. I picked like a row down and maybe 4 seats over and got those. But then when we were there, it wasn't packed or sold out. You know what I mean? Like there was definitely space. Like I was surprised that I had that experience where the seat that I wanted got picked up so fast, but then when I actually went to watch the movie, it wasn't a full house. So that was, I mean, like I said, with COVID and everything, I was happy to have the extra space.
Yeah.
But there was space. You know what I'm saying? Like there was
Yeah.
definitely like one seat between me and people I didn't know on the left hand, and then like on the right side it was like 3 seats between us and whoever was sitting.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So there was like space.
That's really good because there was no space between me and the others. What I actually did is people arrived like 30 minutes late into the film, which I was really surprised by, and it already started.
That's kind of a lot, yeah.
And it already started 20 minutes late into the film. Well, I mean, like
right. Commercials and
the
trailers
commercials went till 2, so it was 30 minutes of commercials before the film actually started.
That's
and then
insane.
It started, and then they were like 20 to 30 minutes late, and they came
into
in,
that, yeah.
IMAX is very steep, so they came in from the back with someone helping them find their seats with a flashlight. And I was thinking,
that's annoying, yeah.
You should just block it if you're that late. If you're 50 minutes after, 50 to an hour after the official start time, just don't let them in. It's too late. You can't just. I don't know. That's how I felt. I was like, you missed your chance. You should have arrived 30 minutes early. You arrived an hour late. It's not worth seeing the movie now. But anyways, so there was nobody to the left of us next to the aisle. And when I booked the seat, there was space. But then when we got into the theater, all the seats were practically taken. So I swapped seats with the further on the left. So it was kind of like we're going to see the screen at an angle, but at least we had no one to the left of us. And then we had no one to the right of us because the seats we were supposed to be in were empty. And we thought, okay, now we have space between us. But then the people arrived late and we got them to we pointed them to the seats where we were at. So they were able to sit down, but then it was like shoulder to shoulder, completely packed. And, for us, it was a really big deal that we didn't catch COVID because we were on vacation in London. We had to come back to France. And if we got COVID, we would have had to, pay for a quarantine hotel, stuck there. So we were like, no eating anything, with like heavy masks, like really kind of paranoid about that. But everything was fine. There was no problem. So it was really helpful for me to see the film a second time online. And I remember thinking the first time I saw it, it was like a rush of adrenaline. Things were moving really fast. I felt like the pace was really fast, especially with the music.
I like that, by the way. That's not a problem for me, but go ahead.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. So like, it was like a fast paced adrenaline. I was like shocked at how fast it went. And a lot of things I didn't understand, like the artificial intelligence robots. Machines.
Synthians.
The Synthians, that's right. So like I kind of understood them, but I needed to watch it again. I definitely did not understand the modal.
So have you watched the video? I got a video for that now.
I watched that video that you posted, and that helped me understand it, honestly. And after just watching it once, I watched your video and I was like, oh, okay. And then after watching your video, then I watched it online the second time and I was able to fully understand, okay, like this is what it was. And since I went in knowing what was going to happen, the pace felt slower because I knew what was coming. And I was like, wait, this doesn't feel as fast as it did on the first viewing. So I was wondering, was that the same experience for you? Like, did the pace slow down upon
third for sure.
viewing?
Also remember, I missed like the first, 2.5 minutes. So yeah, like when I walked out of the theater, that's part of your first question. That was the second thing in my mind was like, right, I have to watch this again just to make sure I didn't miss any dialogue that's important, which there's probably something, which there was, because, she mentioned the window, I believe, early. Right, because that's how they got into the modal and got out too as well. Right, so there was that, me saying I gotta, piece whatever, take whatever pieces I might have missed in those first couple minutes and get that back. But then, to your point, I definitely agree. There was definitely a go, almost, I don't want to say Mad Max, because Fury Road, I feel like, is like just really 1 hour and a half long chase scene. I don't feel like the movie was an hour, or rather 2.5 hour long chase scene. I don't feel like it was that, but just in the sense that it keeps going. It doesn't really have too much downtime, right? It's just go. Well, the pauses are the information dumps, but that's the thing, because of the, like you said, it's going very fast. Like they're saying it very fast. Like, yes, they're monologues or they're, these expositions, right? But at the same time, they're giving you a lot real fast. Like they're not wasting any sentences.
Sure.
So that part of it, you kind of have to watch it again. In fact, I think I tweeted that. I'm like, if you watched it once and then quit, you're doing it wrong. Like you have
Yeah.
to, I mean, this is not new to this franchise. You know what I mean? Like
You have to
you have
watch
to
it
keep
several times to let the philosophy sink in, the
and pick up the
metaphors.
details, the
Mhm.
Easter eggs, all that fun stuff. And you mentioned philosophy. That's one thing. I mean, are we ready to start getting into, I guess, people's reaction to it or dislike of it? Or?
Not yet. We'll
Okay.
get there.
No, I'll say I won't forget this point, but we'll come back around to the philosophy thing. All right. So where are we on your timeline of topics to discuss here? I don't want to go out of order.
I kind of understand like your initial viewing. So I guess, I mean, like I gave it a 10 out of 10. That first viewing. What were your thoughts the first time, and then when you saw it again, when you had a bit more time to process it, did you like it more or less, or like how did you feel about it?
I wouldn't say that I liked it less. I would say that more flaws jumped out at me later.
Yeah.
Not the first time, but later. But it wasn't. My thing is this. Even when I noticed them, they didn't take me out of the movie. It's not something like when people talk about shaky cam. Yes, shaky cam is a problem for me when it's happening to the point where I'm just all I'm focused on is why is the camera shaking? You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel that. Like I noticed the camera shake for a second in a trailer. I didn't really notice it in the action scenes when I was watching the movie. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, dude, stop shaking the camera. Like that wasn't the experience that I had. I get it that like if you're a cameraman, you might have felt that way, but for the most part, like I just feel like it's like a nitpick. Like I don't know, it didn't take me out of it anyway.
Sure.
So that's the point that I'm making. Like I loved it when I saw it. I did not love it when I saw it again. I don't know that I put a number on it in my head. I guess in my head I kind of more like was ranking it against the other films.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like I thought that immediately because it's Cyberpunk Matrix, a lot of the blog is ranking out of 10 all these different media pieces.
So,
so I didn't have to rank it. And like
you were going to do that anyway, so you're like in that headspace.
Exactly. And so for me it was a 10 out of 10. And then the funny thing is when I went back to revisit it, I could see how objectively it might not have been, because 10 out of 10 is like perfect, right? I see how objectively it should not be a 10 out of 10, but for me personally, it still is because of how much I love the franchise and the series.
And I think what's interesting too is you also cover other Cyberpunk, and I think that's the part where I get, I don't want to say frustrated, but it's like, really, guys? Because my thing is, okay, are you comparing it to other Matrix films? Are you comparing it to other sci-fi films? Or are you comparing it to the Matrix sequel you thought you were going to get in your head?
Yeah, well, I feel like most people that really dislike the film, they compare it against the first Matrix film. And it's impossible to hold it up to that standard. Right. And it sets you up.
And every Matrix sequel is going to have that problem.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so this leads me to, before we discuss why people dislike it, because we're kind of veering in that territory. Did the spoilers? So you watched spoilers. You watched a lot of the spoilers.
Oh, I went in there as spoiled as anyone.
As possible, right? So I remember, and like they were getting to the point where I was starting to, they were going on to the talk shows, and they showed that scene where Neo meets Morpheus for the first time
in the bathroom.
Like, no. I didn't want to see that. Then I saw, and then once I saw the movie, I was like, okay, they didn't really spoil anything. What did spoil the movie for me is, was it February 2020? I think. Yeah,
the San Francisco shoot.
This San Francisco shoot, and so that big climax where Trinity catches him, I was like, well, yeah. I mean,
all the big action, right? All the big action was that the San Francisco leaked footage was like the climax of the movie, so that's fair. But that was like one of the earliest spoiler leaks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. But like I remember there was a gasp in the theater when she stops him in midair and pulls him up. And I remember thinking in my head, I was just like, yeah, did you guys not see that? Oh, right. I'm a mega fan. You guys weren't.
They did not see that at all.
Picture.
They had
didn't
no
know
idea that any of that happened. Right. Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, gosh, like I really wish I hadn't seen that, because maybe I would have been as shocked as them. And I deprived myself of that experience. So my question to you is, being as spoiled as you were with the spoilers, did that kind of change your viewing experience, especially at the end? Or were you
I think it did. Personally, I think it did in the not way people would expect. I think that because I had so many spoilers, I wasn't as confused. I and I get it. A lot of my, I guess, how do you put it, foundational understanding of the things that were going on is because I had all that Matrix Online experience and knowledge, and that's a
Mhm.
big part of it.
Mhm.
So it's not just the fact that I saw a lot of spoilers, but when you combine the two together, like I said, I just feel like I was totally prepared. Where we're talking about watching it a first time and then watching it a second time, and that you're probably going to want to do that just in terms of just the pacing, you
Yep.
know. Now
And
when you talk about,
understanding the plot and so on, like there are the things that are
well, that's what I was going to say. When you're talking
more
about
productive.
understanding the plot, it's
Yeah.
almost like I did watch it once before I walked in. You know what I mean? So when you're talking about plot points, my first viewing was almost my second viewing.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
see what I mean? So I'm like, even though it's moving fast, I'm following a lot of the plot. There's a couple of questions here or there, but for the most part, I was riding with the whole thing. Like I'm like, not, and that's the thing. Yes. So I'm not surprised that Trinity, flies away at the end, but I guess for me, a lot of what makes the surprise factor in the Matrix so impactful is the first Matrix. So once you know what the Matrix is, like it's like, because like again, I had that experience of having no idea what the movie was about and going in and being totally mind blown. So now, all right, now we're past that. So now it's like, what's next? You know what I mean?
There's nothing else to shock you much more than understanding what the Matrix is.
Right.
Although I will say that it was really interesting for me to think with the sentience, like there can be machines on the side of the humans and the machines against the humans. And now we have this nuance that like it's not as simple as just machines bad, humans good. It was knowing that they can disagree with themselves. I thought that was really interesting.
And that's a dynamic that existed in the Matrix Online with the Cypherites. It was a machine faction, but we had different ideologies. I mean, you can even say that with the EPNs, the E pluribus neos, and the Zionites, or old school Zionites, they had different views on certain things. So, sure. In a way, in both cases, it was like their subtext or reference to extremism, or religious zealots on the Zion side. Right. But you get what I'm saying. Like they were a separate faction within the Zion faction, a separate faction within the machine faction. It was interesting because the Mervs didn't get split like that. Mm-hmm. But we did have this experience. And that's the thing. It wasn't necessarily a civil war. But when you get into civil war, the machine civil war, you did have the general sentinels against the machine city machines. So we did see these kind of things, previewed, I guess, or field tested in the Matrix Online. So that part of it.
So it wasn't new for you, but it was new for me. And it's funny because it's correct. Like when I think about the programs, I can think of, non-human entities fighting each other with Smith versus the Oracle, for example, or the Architect versus the Oracle. But to have them do the same thing in the real world felt kind of novel. That in retrospect is like, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, it was great. Like when Bug said, you changed the definition of which side is which, that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I love that aspect of, I guess, I don't want to say cyberpunk, but just the whole, I guess, AI conversation, this idea that it's not necessarily a hive mind and that there's, individuality and choice can exist for a machine and all that. That's fun for me.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of leads us to how the situation is now with the Matrix Resurrections. So I wanted your thoughts on why so many people dislike the film, but to lead into that, I want to give a bit of background because I was doing a bit of work today on writing a blog post for the future of cyberpunk, and that's going to be coming out on Saturday. The future of the genre of cyberpunk, and that's very much impacted, I think, by Matrix Resurrections. So I have the numbers here on how it's doing, and it looks grim. Okay, so Matrix Resurrections released on December 22nd alongside Sing 2 and The Kingsman. And now this is also a week after the blockbuster Spider-Man No Way Home, which is doing just absolutely amazing in the box office right now. And I guess I understand that. They projected $40 million gross that it would earn over its 5-day release, and it actually only grossed 22.5. Its weekend itself only grossed 10.75 million, and that's worse than Wonder Woman 1984 a year prior around Christmas time. And as of 2 days ago, Matrix Resurrections has made a total worldwide gross of 148.6 million, but its budget was 190. So it's still $40 million away from breaking even. And we know what that means if a movie doesn't make money for the production. So
I disagree in pandemic times. I think that the old box office rules are not the right now box office rules.
okay. All right. That's
Now,
interesting.
in fairness, what I will say is, just having talked to a couple industry people, or people, I guess, more in the movie industry, they say that, the budget that we see is the production budget. That doesn't count the advertising budget. So they spent more than $190 million when talking about
really?
posters all over the
It's not including the market. I thought that included the marketing because it's a
does not.
It's a range that I see.
But to that point,
whatever.
Right. But to that point, though, that's always the case. So whenever we're talking about a budget, the movie budget, the marketing budget isn't in there. So you know what I mean? Like when people are talking about it, it is not considering the marketing budget. So you know what I mean? I'm saying that just, I guess, as free information. It's not going to change my perspective on the numbers that you presented. But what I wanted to say, like I said, if it's 50 million under, 40 million under, breaking even.
Yeah.
Like I said, in the pandemic times, the number we don't have is how many people subscribe to HBO Max just to watch The Matrix Resurrections.
Right. And now that's something that I think may have heard it. And that I realized I was like, oh man, well, you don't have to go to the theaters if you can watch it 5 times over and over again at home, which is kind of like what you did, right? Like I didn't have that option. And also HBO Max, unless if you have a VPN, is only available in the US,
in certain countries,
Canada.
Right? Yeah.
France, you can't get it. I mean, I was able to get it because I got a VPN, but like it's in general, you can't do that.
And so what I'm going to say though is when said Warner, HBO decided to do the simultaneous release, I don't work there. I don't know who did the numbers. I don't know what the projected numbers were. But what I'm telling you is by them making that choice, they specifically were saying, we're trying to pivot people into the streaming subscriptions.
Yeah.
They're trying to, they got a late start. They're trying to catch Netflix and Disney Plus, Amazon Prime. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they're behind. So they're trying to play catch up. So to me, I'm thinking more than, of course they want to make a lot of money at the box office. They want to make money wherever they can. But you know what I mean? Like that wasn't the first goal. To me, the first goal was getting as many HBO Max subscriptions as humanly possible. That's the model that they're trying to transition to, I guess, preparing for the new normal. I just think that was more important to them. Now, did they hit their targets on that side? No idea. They don't have to share that information, just like Netflix doesn't share those numbers. You know what I mean? So that part we're in the dark about. I know a lot of people said that they were going to watch it on HBO Max, though. The second question is how many people unsubscribed immediately after watching it. But you get the point of what I'm saying. There's numbers in the Matrix Resurrections, I guess gross formula that aren't counted when we're talking about pure box office numbers. The second part of that, I guess, Warner numbers conversation is that, the whatever CEO or executive that they talked to from Warner said, if Lana wants to make more Matrix, she can make more Matrix. And he said that before the movie was even released. Then prior to that, they already greenlit Dune 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like Warner is looking at this like, okay, if it came out during the HBO Max release year, it gets a mulligan. Or rather, if we believe in that franchise, we'll keep going with it, whether or not it broke even or not. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's not necessarily a concern when it comes to more Matrix. I think there are, other things that we should be worried about.
But part of the consideration, but part of the consideration is also the reviews. And I think that Dune, as that example, kind of received more across the board positive reviews.
Did you watch Dune?
I did. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. Well, I'll put it this way, and I don't want to take too much time off of Matrix for Dune, but what I will say is I did think that it was a reimagination that was deserved.
Mm-hmm.
I like what they did compared to the original.
Sure.
But my point is, it's a reimagination of the original. Like, it's not like, for as much positive press as Dune got, I'm like, how are you guys killing Matrix? You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't say one bad thing about Dune without getting, the Dune fan mob on your Twitter thread. But I'm like, I guess what I'm saying is, to me, I think Matrix was a better movie. Yeah, it had flaws, but like, I just didn't, and I enjoyed Dune. I just didn't think there was anything super special about it. And I thought the way that they ended it was like where they stopped it was like, really? Like, I don't know.
Right, because it's a part one. It's meant to be a 2-part film.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. How is part one, how is an incomplete film that much better than the Matrix Resurrections? I'm just not, I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. Don't get me, like I said, it was visually, it was great, but like, there was nothing in there that just made me go, oh my God, this is the greatest movie. You know what I mean? I didn't see that.
Well, perhaps it's more that there's nothing offensive really from Dune, and there were some elements that were apparently offensive to others for Matrix Resurrections. And that's a great segue into
this is the stuff we're getting into. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's with all the hate? Why do you think that there are people who disliked it so much? According to you, what do you think?
Well, so the first part that you started with is comparing it to the original Matrix film. I said that before the movie even came out. I went in going, saying that there are going to be people who compare it to the original Matrix. We already know that it's not going to beat that. Accept that, and your life will be better. Now, after that, this is before seeing the movie.
Yeah,
I knew because of all the different sects of, online groups who co-opted the Matrix for their own movement. They were going to be upset because, like, you've already turned what existed into what you wanted. So of course the new movie isn't going to be what you turned it into. It's going to be what the people who made it turned it into. They're going to be different, period. And then, you had the Lily Wachowski tweet drama and all that stuff, the Elon Musk stuff. So yeah, the people who, I guess, co-opted it for whatever online movement, there's more than one. It's not just the QAnons or, the red pill movement. There's, there's a bunch, so I figured most of those groups were going to be upset no matter what they did. So after seeing it, and actually this is not just after seeing it, but because I have a YouTube channel where people bring their observations to me, and someone made the point to me, and then when I watched it again, it made more sense, or rather I noticed what they noticed. I'm not as well versed in psychology. This was the philosophy thing that I said we were going to circle back to when you mentioned the philosophy of the original films before.
Yeah.
I felt like where the subtext in the original, especially the original Matrix, but throughout the original trilogy and even in some of the Animatrix and so on and so forth, there's a lot of philosophical subtext. Okay, references to Plato's allegory, cave allegory, and different philosopher thought experiments kind of snuck in here and there. With the Matrix Resurrections, they replaced that philosophical subtext with psychological subtext. Okay. Right. You got the analyst, you've got all these different relationships. You understand what I'm saying? Neo's relationship with Smith, Neo's, wanting to have a relationship with Trinity, Neo's relationship with Jude. You've got all these different relationships. So the original Matrix makes you think in a philosophical way, and then it's got all these religious references.
Yeah.
So it's inviting you to feel, but it's inviting you to feel through your beliefs. Okay. Now, in the sequels, Reloaded, especially Revolutions, it's then asking you to choose what you believe. Okay. And it's inviting, like I said, this choose your own adventure. You can get out of it what you want, go as far down that rabbit hole as you choose to as an audience member. With Resurrections. So even then we saw there was backlash with some of the sequels before. Okay.
Yeah. With Revolutions in particular. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Because that's the one that asks you to participate the most. Okay. You got to fill in the most questions for that one. It's more work for the audience. That's number one. Number two, again, it's this, when people talk about religion, they're very passionate, so yes, it makes you feel, but I feel like that's part of that, I guess, rejection for Revolutions. There are other things, but that's an avenue or an aspect. With Resurrection, now you're talking about psychology. Again, you're inviting the audience to feel, but instead of religion, now it's really, really rooted in their own feelings because it's psychology.
Okay.
So you're only going to see it the way you feel like seeing it. You know what I mean? Especially, you see what I mean? Like with the religious and the philosophical subtext stuff, like you kind of have to, I think you have to be more aware of that you're picking up on those references.
Uh-huh.
Whereas with the psychological stuff, it might trigger you and you don't even know that it triggered you.
Interesting.
You know, I just feel like there's a different flavor of vested audience feelings in the Matrix Resurrections that I don't want to say that people weren't ready for. I just, like I said, I think it's something that it can subconsciously affect you and provide this over the top projection reaction. You know, people are projecting their feelings of things onto things in it. And I'm just like, okay. Like I said, I feel like most people who are complaining are comparing the film to their expectation and not other films, not even the other Matrix movies in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
They're just saying, I wanted to see X, Y, and Z, and I didn't see X, Y, and Z, so I hate it.
Yeah. And they kind of make fun of that, of like people who love the Matrix 1 so much with this kind of meta analysis. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of the...
real quick though, I've heard that. And for me as a fan, personally, I didn't feel attacked. I felt like it was more of a commentary on the people who Lana and, you know, probably Lily had to deal with, but more so this round Lana. You know, I mean, I'm sure this whole 20-year journey for them, I think it was more about the people telling them what the Matrix was about when they made the Matrix. I don't think it was so much a slight towards Matrix fans. I just think it was, you know, maybe like that Neo line. Maybe she put too much of her into it, you know? But I think that was part of their personal experience, having created the original trilogy and now, you know, preparing or creating the sequel. Like, right. Everybody always tells me what the Matrix is. How are you going to tell me? I wrote it.
I see. Because I felt like when I watched those scenes, it was kind of like they were making fun of, in a subtle way, people who took the Matrix too seriously, that they just deified that first film and they wanted to remake that again, remake that magic. And it had to be exactly like that. So they were trying to like break it down with all these marketing terms that were very like general, but not really specific and not really helpful in any way. And so it was kind of like poking fun at people who just took Matrix 1 way too seriously and who just deified the trilogy in general, saying like, you know, relax about this. I mean, it was what it was. It's a good film, but like you don't have to put it up on that pedestal to that level, you know?
I mean, I guess I feel you. I do feel that relax energy a little bit. But I think, how do I put it? I think it was more towards this,
more towards the Warner Brothers, the producers.
Yes, the marketing departments and the people that they have to deal with. That's where I feel like that energy was more shifted towards. I don't think it was shifted towards the fans. And I guess I don't want to say proof or my validation is Berg, the Neo-ologist. Like him and Lexi, you know, I love Lexi, by the way, but their characters, I felt like were for the hardcore fans. Like these are, you know, heroes in here. They're not Neo and Trinity, but I felt like they represented us. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't made fun of. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he had that line like when she's like, she's asking about Neo's crew, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're all gonna die." Oh, I thought that was great.
That's true. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like I felt like that was more the representation of the hardcore fan than, you know, the meta being made fun of. I think that was more corporate salt. And
okay.
You know, I've got respect for that. Like if she's in a position where, you know, she can poke fun at them and they'll still cut her a check, more power to her. You know what I'm saying?
I was surprised that they mentioned the Warner Brothers in name in the film. I was like, they could have just said producers. They actually said Warner Brothers. I was like, wow, like they actually made the cut. I was surprised.
Well, there's a couple things. There was that kind of jumped out at me as like, oh, is this a joke, or like how much joking are we doing right now?
Yeah.
And then the other thing, I lost it. What was the other thing that surprised me? Oh, right. The whole Niobe stuff, her information dump.
Oh, sure. Interesting.
Because all you had to do is not say those 2 or 3 lines, and we don't have that debate. I think in the live stream that my last 2 live streams with Vesuvius and Starshore, who did the original Matrix 4 podcast, basically us going through all the Matrix Online stuff in Vesuvius's podcast series. He was a guest in the last 2 live streams on my YouTube channel. And we kind of just talked about how, especially if you read the text, like if you look at the quote unquote transcript or the version that we have, the subtitles, and it jumps off at the page. It's like, right, she didn't really retcon anything. Yes, in the first listening, it sounded like she did. But when I actually looked at what she said and broke down what actually happens in the Matrix Online, I'm like, well, those could coexist. Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? There was nothing specific enough. She said just enough for you to feel like it was retconned, but she didn't say enough to retcon it.
Okay, so it can.
Yeah, and I'm and I'm sure that was deliberate. You know what I mean? Like, those kind of things in the Matrix universe aren't accidents. But yeah, I am a little disappointed that, again, I get it. I get that that's the natural first reaction. But I am a little disappointed that so many people ran with it, because it's like, well, first of all, how many people even really know what happened in the Matrix Online for everybody to be saying the Matrix Online was retcon?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There can't really be that many people who even know what happened. And that's the thing. I feel like it's a lot of telephone game, a lot of repeating and regurgitating, something, a hot take or something that, and, the other side of it, right? Oh, this is the more important answer to your question. When you say, why do so many people hate it? And there might be a level of irony here if you want to look at it that way. But this is a real thing. Even prior to the Matrix Resurrections, especially on Twitter, but YouTube does it too. The algorithms for YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, social media. Now, see, Instagram is more pictures, so it doesn't have the effect that we're going to talk about.
Right.
But the algorithms on all these social media sites, what is their primary objective? What is their main goal?
For people to interact with the content. Leaving
engagement.
Yep.
Engagement, interaction. I want you looking at my platform for as long as we can possibly keep you here. So what it then does is it realizes that us people, well, when you get into an argument, when there's a polarizing debate, when there's something where one side, where you can take red or blue, where you can be on one side opposing another, we're going to stick around for that. Yeah. Not only are we going to stick around for that, we're going to retweet, we're going to like, we're going to share, we're going to tell everybody about it. Can you believe what this guy said? This, that, and the third. All that engagement spikes when it's a polarizing debate. And the algorithm pumps that to us. It's promoting that to us. It wants us to get in on the argument.
Sure. Yeah.
So you've got 60%, or by Rotten Tomatoes, you've got 63% saying they loved it, 47% or 37% saying they hate it, whatever it is. And the hate side is always louder than the love side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's often true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's how we ended up where we were. Then you get the YouTube videos in there. Guys are getting views because they say they hate it. Okay, let's keep running with we hate it.
So do you think that a 63% is a valid review of it? Do you feel like Matrix Resurrections should have gotten higher of a rating? Because there are some things that you can. It sounded like you said that there are objectively some things that could have been improved once you saw it a second or third or fourth time.
So, yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in the ratings. I've definitely heard stories of payola, and somebody explained to me, oh, well, that's just people writing editorials. That's not actually the score. And I'm like, well, where does it end? You know what I mean? Like,
how do you get a score then?
I don't know. But that said, to answer your question, I do feel like, the stuff we talked about before, that there's some unwarranted hate, that there's some, invalid hate that I think that exists. But yeah, there are things, for example, like Vesuvius does mixed martial arts, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So for him, he was like, yeah, there was a martial arts element that wasn't there. Now, we all know that was the lack of Wu Ping. When you have Wu Ping doing your fight choreography, it's going to look dope. Now, I'm not going to, but that said, even though I can totally respect and agree with somebody saying that the Kung Fu missed the Wu Ping factor, I think his name is Joshua Groth, whoever did the fight choreography for this, I think he did Sense 8 and something else with Lana. He doesn't have anywhere near as much experience as Wu Ping. But again, the action scenes didn't take me out of it. It wasn't like, oh, this is so bad, to me anyway. Some people felt that it was that way. I get it that it wasn't the martial arts level that we saw in the previous trilogy, but the action scenes weren't like, oh, this is boring or this is, not good fight choreography. I didn't get that. Now, I did notice that there were like a lot of wall runs, because there's like one where Neo does it twice.
Yeah.
But I noticed other people doing it too. So I noticed that I felt like that move might have gotten overused a touch. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like all this is nitpicky kind of, okay, a little bit here I could have taken away, or a little bit here could have been, a different move. Like, I mean, at that level, what are we really talking about? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to push back a bit here, because for people who really appreciate those details of action scene choreography, it is something that's very noticeable. I mean, my first viewing,
that's what I'm saying. That's why I brought up Vesuvius, because for him, it's definitely noticeable.
Absolutely.
I'm not a martial artist, so that's what I mean. For me, that I can see that it's not as clean and as thorough as before, but it's not ruining it for me.
All right, yeah. So what I'm saying is, I believe Tiger Chen helped with some of the choreography in the original trilogy, and Yan Wenping was the main choreographer, but also Chad Stahelski helped with some of the stunts. Now, Chad Stahelski is famous for the director for the John Wick series, and also he plays Chad.
And also Neo's stunt double in the original Matrix trilogy.
That's right, yes. And so...
which is part of the meta of Chad and playing Trinity's husband.
Exactly.
Right.
So that was really enjoyable. But so like I watched a lot of other films that Yan Wenping has choreographed, like Hidden Tiger, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and then the Ip Man series, if you've seen that on Netflix. Yeah. And it's just such beautiful choreography. And so I immediately noticed that difference here. And I felt like a lot of some of their old fight scenes in the original trilogy were long shots. And that's something that I talked about in my other podcast, that I love long shot action sequences. I mean, you have long shot with John Wick, but it's with guns and it's still kind of shaky cam. You know what I mean? So I'm talking about long shot where it's just like you're seeing it kind of from afar, or you're looking at close at their action. And you have that in the trilogy. And I feel like the fight with the Merovingian, that kind of was missing a bit. And so that's something that I was a bit disappointed by with the first viewing.
But now, but you mentioned it, you mentioned Chad, and he didn't, he's not credited for doing the fight choreography. But again, you had Chad, Tiger Chen, all these 8711 guys. So, when I knew that coming in, or whatever with the channel, going through the information of who's on the cast and crew, I expected it to look more like John Wick action film. You know what I mean? Because you got the whole John Wick crew on the set.
That's true.
So that's why it wasn't surprising to me. And someone else, like how somebody mentioned the psychology aspect in comments on my channel. Someone else mentioned an even potential deeper layer of commentary or subtext that might be designed for the filmmaking industry. Now, again, I made a short film. I would not consider myself a filmmaking insider, so if there is some type of inside subtext for that industry, I might not have picked up on it. But he was basically talking about this like descending chaos, or it starts like as Neo is more confused, there's more chaos in the action, and then as he gets closer to Trinity, it cleans up. That's something that I want to watch on next viewing to see if it's consistent to the theory. But
I did feel like Swarm Mode was a bit smoother in terms of the action scenes and the swivels and stuff as he's going away. Although I will say I'm a bit disappointed with how he just uses his hand as like the force to push things. There's no more guns. There's no more it's not quite as kung fu focused, I suppose. Like when he uses that move, it looks impressive, but it's not as fun to watch, objectively speaking.
Yeah, I like the force push stuff. I don't know. I mean, and I also, because of the San Francisco leaks, I could see in those shots the shield. It's almost like, makeshift behind the scenes. So like whenever he actually did that move, in the shot. I'm like, oh, that's a shield shot. You know what I mean? Like, so I could like,
You just spoiled it like crazy. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Like, you're like, okay, well, they did it like this, and they're actually flying over San Francisco right now.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Let's change gears for a bit from talking about the details to some parts that I was a bit confused about. And so, like, I think I kind of understand, but I still have some questions. So I thought I'd go to the master, to the source, as it were, to ask you if you can explain these things to me. The first thing is, what does the cat déjà vu mean in the movie?
So I would say the deja vu cat is some more meta. I mean, it's just a reference to, you know, the glitch in the Matrix scene. We also know that we see the deja vu cat at the end of Revolutions when they clean up after the fight.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So in the original Matrix film, he says deja vu. You know, what exactly did you see? You know, then Cypher tells us that they trapped them in there.
I know that from the references in the past. What I mean is, like, I guess what I'm asking is, it seems like deja vu is some sort of weapon, some sort of tool that the analyst needs to access in order to do a time jump. Because when there is the big brawl that fights when Smith enters,
yeah, he's clearly reaching for the cat. That's why I went back, just I guess for your audience or for your listeners.
Okay,
you know, to I was defining the tool as we saw it in the original trilogy.
Okay.
So that way, you know, when you get to the analyst in Resurrections, it still has that cleanup or we're changing something functionality.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay, I see.
To your point, though, where we saw the cat in the original trilogy, we don't see the architect. We just see the cat and something changes.
Sure. Yeah.
With Resurrections, clearly he needs the cat in order to pull this off. So, and that might be part of maybe the quote unquote suits have given the analyst limitations. He's not all powerful in the Matrix the way perhaps the architect was or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
Okay. So then but do you think that the deja vu cat, he uses it to do these loops to jump back in time? And so when we see the cat, we know that something is like there's going to be a time tamper.
Yeah. I don't think he needs the cat for bullet time.
Yeah.
I think he needs the cat when he's trying to completely reset the scene. Like when when Bug says she saw him jump, but he never fell. I would imagine that was erased by a deja vu cat. And that's why she doesn't remember seeing him fall.
Okay. Because I remember like the first viewing that he's so desperate to reach the cat. And I'm like, why? It's just a cat. Why? You know, everyone's fighting each other. You're not worried about bullets flying or anything. You just want to get to the cat. Why was he doing that? And so, okay, so that leads me to a second question. I think I know the answer, but I was very confused when Neo or Thomas Anderson is thinking it's not real, and Smith kind of is woken up by seeing the gun or something like that, and he's about to shoot Neo. I guess he pulls the trigger, and then all of a sudden he's back in the analyst's room. Is that because the therapist realized that he was about to die, and did it jump back in time before that could happen?
Yeah, you answered your own question. So, because we kind of that's kind of where I was going with the whole Bugs thing with the leap. You mentioned it with that scene where deja vu pops up right before Neo's about to die. I do believe that there was some sort of failsafe where if Neo's life was was being threatened, if he was about to die, that gave the analyst the opportunity to reset things, because he's got bullet time, so he only needs a split second.
Okay. So he was able to see that he was about to die, and then he pulled it back, and then Smith is back in his chains. He can't get out. But as Smith woke up
at least while Neo is connected from the what do they call it? Anomalium.
Yeah.
That failsafe might not be in there once he's hacking into the Matrix.
But did Smith realize who he was when he saw the gun, or it was the rain? Or like, why did he suddenly change in that scene where they're trying to break him out?
The gun is the moment that we're given. Now, obviously that was Smith's, weapon of choice, favorite weapon, however you want to word that. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it is the gun specifically that triggers him. Now, I've got a theory about this. I haven't gotten into it on my channel yet because I wanted to watch around it a couple more times. Like I said, I did the modal video because I understood, after a couple of watchings, and reading the transcript, a lot of things jumped off at the page. Like, okay, they are explaining this. So I had enough concrete dialogue to point to for that. For this, I don't have enough concrete dialogue, at least not yet. So that's why I haven't gotten into it. So this could be like a Cyberpunk exclusive, right?
There's still some questions that you have. That's actually impressive.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
After
I
watching
mean,
6 times, yeah.
right. For me, because they don't really explain Smith even being there fully, you know, I think that that's part of one of those, we're not going to fully answer this, maybe because of time constraints, maybe because of recast with the whole Hugo Weaving scheduling conflict,
right?
Or maybe, and this is where I'm leaning, it's one of those things like Revolutions, and we're not going to answer this so that you have something to play with, so that you can participate and come up with something on your own.
Yeah,
right?
And that's pretty rare that you have a movie where they don't explain everything, that they give you these kind of loose-ended things where you have to come up with your own answers to things. Usually they don't give you that opportunity.
So, right. And so if we're going to be coming up with things on our own, you know, Morpheus goes to Deus Machina to set Neo free, right? He's already been freed from the modal by bugs.
Yeah.
He explains to Neo in the bathroom and in the construct that by having programmed him as Morpheus and Smith, that was, you know, the makings for some crazy sauce.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So to me, because Neo wrote this version of Smith in the modal with old Matrix code, and Smith was written with old Matrix code and also set free by Neo, more than the gun, I think it's Morpheus's presence that triggers Smith.
Because he sees a bit of himself.
Right. He sees himself. He sees the old code. He sees the gun in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And it just all clicks.
Oh, that's I didn't catch that. That's very perceptive. Yeah. Okay, I know we're running short on time.
And then there's one more thing about that. The other thing about that is after that, yeah, Morpheus explains how crazy it was in the modal, but he doesn't have like Smith tendencies. He's not Agent Morpheus anymore. I feel like that kind of freed the Smith from the program Morpheus. Like that part of him went back to its original source, which is the real Smith.
Oh, interesting. That's definitely a deeper theory, though.
You know what I mean? Exactly. I don't have any like dialogue to explain any of that.
Just a feeling.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite elements of this film, though, is the music. Do you have any thoughts on the music?
You know what? Honestly, okay. So the music in the movie fit.
Yeah.
Going into the film, while I did like the movie in the original trilogy, everybody's like, no Don Davis. And I was like, no big deal. In the actual film, I did miss him a little bit. Not a lot. It didn't, like I said, it didn't take me out of it.
Yeah.
And I was very excited for Tom Tickfer's approach. So I don't want to say I was disappointed. I just think that Don's a little better. It's kind of like the Wu Ping thing, only Wu Ping's a lot better. Yeah. I think Don's a little better. And like I said, I still enjoyed the music. What I will say is like the soundtrack specifically, like for me growing up, a soundtrack isn't necessarily the music from the movie. Like there might be a song here or two that was in the movie, you know, but for the most part, a lot of times on the soundtrack, there's like songs that, you know, were like in the background or not even in the movie. It's just made for the movie, you know? So I felt like
that's what I mean. The original soundtrack, the OST that went with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I felt like there was a missed opportunity there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't feel like there was any of that kind of music, and that kind of shocked me.
Okay.
Not in a good way.
For me, it was the reverse. I liked that it didn't have lots of extra songs from different things. I liked that it was mostly the soundtrack, and I felt like the soundtrack was really fast and really interesting. It was like almost exactly, it was very similar to Don Davis. I mean, obviously the one thing it really missed was the pile driver, right? And I know that's kind of very typical of Don Davis. And he has an amazing way. Yeah, I for sure missed Don Davis too, but I guess I had such an overwhelming fear that the music would not be good because Don Davis wasn't there. And because of that, it would ruin the entire movie no matter how good. Because I feel like music for me is so important. It's make or break. You can have an amazing film, and if it has bad music, bad soundtrack, it's not good. And you can have a terrible film that has a good soundtrack and it makes it redeemable. And so I felt like the music was really good. And because of that, I really enjoyed it to the point where now I want to just listen to the album, the original soundtrack on repeat, just, to do basic work, because I thought it was really great.
A lot of people had that fear going in, and that's what I was saying. Like, that level of fear I didn't have, because I felt like the music in Cloud Atlas wasn't terrible to the point that it ruined the film. You know what I mean? Like, I like the music in Cloud Atlas. I like the music in the Matrix series more, the original franchise and Resurrections.
It's a lot faster. It's a different kind of film. Sure.
Yeah. No, I think that as a, I guess, composer, Tom Tykwer has grown or developed. You know what I mean? Like, he's better than he was 5 years ago, whenever Cloud Atlas came out.
I see.
So, and that's fun for me. Like, that's one thing I saw, not just from a sound design or composer perspective with Tykwer, but the actors too. The Sense8 actors. Like, I see Priyanka Chopra. Like, I just saw a lot of growth. I saw a lot of them better than I had seen them in their previous projects. So that was really cool to see.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely.
People putting their best foot forward for the Matrix Resurrections, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like they really bonded a lot. I mean, obviously they've been together for a lot of things.
Right.
Sense8,
yeah.
But the other
you could see the chemistry with the Sense8 crew, like the actors that were in Sense8. You could see that their chemistry was like on point. Yeah.
But like Jessica Henwick and Priyanka Chopra and Christine Ricci, I feel like everyone kind of meshed really well together. I could be wrong, but I feel like they really became good friends through this. So it was a good filming.
One of the things I saw someone say, I don't want to misquote them, but it was something to the effect of, like, they felt like Jessica was rushing her lines. I think it's that she had a lot to say in a short amount of time. I don't know that it was. I could understand everything she said. Like, it wasn't like I couldn't make out what she was saying. But to that point, like, I really felt like she carried Iron Fist. Here, she didn't have to carry it, so I just felt like it was a more relaxed delivery, but that wasn't a bad thing. Like, I felt like it fit the role. Like, I believed that she was that character, and it's not like she was nonchalant. Like, there was definitely emotion. Like, when she hugged Morpheus, it was like I was surprised. I was like, oh, where'd that come from? But like in a good way. I again, there were things that I felt invited the audience to feel that I could see was a result of exceptionally good writing. Like, I did, Beyond the Glitch. I wrote that, right? And like, so from that perspective, I could just see these different writer beats that it's like, I'm nowhere near that level. Like, I don't think like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I really liked her performance. Yeah. But unfortunately, I think we are going to have to cut off here because we're going on over an hour. Yeah.
Well, hopefully with the cleanup, you can like squeeze it and make it fit.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I'll be able to fix that. But yeah, so thank you so much, Laz, for coming on again. This is your second time on the show. Really appreciate having you on. And
only twice. I thought we did this 3 times. This is only the second.
I think it's only been twice. Yeah.
Well, like you said, we've done other people's podcasts together.
We've done other people's podcasts. That's right. But like on the actual Cyberpunk Matrix podcast, I think this is only your second time. Wow. But we're constantly running into each other and everything, so it's fine. So thank you so much, Laz, for coming on to Cyberpunk Matrix podcast. Cyberpunk Matrix is your one-stop shop for everything cyberpunk. We have the Cyberpunk Matrix blog that you can read and see all the details for all the latest cyberpunk news. The Cyberpunk Matrix podcast that you're listening to now is available on all of your major streaming platforms. If you're listening to it on iTunes, make sure to give it a 5-star rating. And we are also on YouTube with the Cyberpunk Matrix YouTube channel, where you can listen to the podcast, but also see some reaction videos and things like that. So if you go on YouTube, make sure to give it a thumbs up, click the notification bell, and subscribe if you don't want to miss out for all the latest news. So again, Laz, thank you so much for listening. This has been your Cyberpunk Matrix podcast with your host, Alex. Over and out.
You have just been in the cyberspace with your host, Alex. Welcome back to the desert of the real. If your upload was smooth, leave a 5-star review on iTunes and subscribe for more content.